If I still question your devotion to me, you must make a sacrifice. Your son, Isaac. Welcome. I kind of botched the line. We got 5 wins in a row. I gotta tell you, this is... Hold on. Pez F. Pez for you? No, thank you. I don't need chalk. NKWZ. This may hold the 2020's record for the earliest ever Isaac episode recorded. It is 8:04 a.m. I'm not, like, normally waking up super early to do episodes. I understand 8:04 a.m. is not necessarily, you know, at the crack of dawn. Although it's kind of BS, right? Like, literally the sun did just come up. Like, maybe half an hour ago, I was looking out my window. It looked like Iceland at 10:30 out there. 10:30 a.m., complete darkness. Now, you know, there's a little blue light coming through the curtains. Seems like it's going to be a nice day today, but here's how it happens, okay? So, I actually slept really well last night. I slept from, like, 11 until 6 a.m. The baby slept from 11 until 6 a.m. But waking up at 6 a.m. is kind of, and I understand a lot of people are going to be like, that's when I wake up, and you're not wrong in this case. Sometimes I'd be like, you're wrong, but in this case, I understand. And I agree with you, actually. When you wake up at 6 a.m., it's kind of awkward, right? It takes maybe half an hour to 45 minutes to feed the baby, get the diaper situation sorted, get the baby back in the crib, and then, you know, everything's hunky-dory. We will take Ghost Baby, I guess. And then you think to yourself, should we get up? Is it time to get up? Or do we go back to sleep from like 7 until 9? I don't know. Like, I think everybody has a certain minimum amount of sleep that they consider worth sleeping for, if that makes sense. Like, if I was like... Some people, by the way, have a very low minimum. Some people would be like, you know, oh, hey, we gotta leave in 10 minutes. Like, here, let me be honest with you. If I said we have to be somewhere in 10 minutes, and Josh was like, hold on, I'm just gonna sneak in a 5-minute nap, I would believe him. I genuinely think Josh is one of those people. I'm not gonna say he always falls asleep at the drop of a hat, but he seems like one of those guys that almost has like a switch that you can turn on and off. If you can extract any sort of restfulness and productive relaxation from a 5-minute nap or a 10-minute nap, congratulations. I honestly think I'm a 3-hour guy. I really don't like to take a nap unless I'm getting a minimum 3 hours, which you might think that leads to me taking a lot of 3-hour naps. It's actually like the opposite. It means I take almost no naps. Because I'm like, you know, why go to sleep at 1 if I just gotta get up at 4 anyway, you know? But I feel good, honestly. It was just kind of like an awkward time to wake up. But I'll take waking up at an awkward time after a relatively healthy amount of sleep, rather than, like, you know, the usual for us lately, which, I mean, actually the usual has been the baby sleeping really well, but the usual for the first couple of weeks of the baby's existence was like, you know, go to bed at 9, wake up at 11:30, wake up at 12, wake up at, you know, 1:15, wake up at 4:17, sleep until 9 a.m. It takes you like 14 hours to get 6 hours of sleep. So honestly, like, this is a pretty nice situation. I'm getting the same amount of sleep I got back in high school. Which is not bad. You can live on that. I grew on that, apparently. All I was eating was, you know, Dunkaroos and Pepsi Blues. My favorite Tom Waits song. Dare I do a Tom Waits impression at 8 a.m.? Dunkaroos and Pepsi Blues. Something like that. Man, I don't know what I got. Anyway, it's more of a Nighthawks at the Diner era Tom Waits. It's less of like a Rain Dogs. I'm a sailor, and I said I got it on nice. Regardless. Sorry, we're going off today. Now, I said it's a 2020's record, because I'll tell you, in 2012, I was all fricked up in my schedule, especially when I first moved back from Korea. You know, you got a hunger and you got jet lag working together simultaneously. What do I mean by that? Well, first off, I had just, you know, my contract had run out at a job that I did not enjoy. And instead, you know, to the surprise of everybody at the time, because this was not really like a thing back then, or at least it was not a thing that like more than, I don't know, like 100 people were doing worldwide, I had the opportunity to make a living playing video games. What's up with that, dude? Have you heard of this thing? A little website called YouTube. We shouldn't take it. I hate to say it. We shouldn't take it. I don't think we should go to the curse room either. I think we should bounce out of here and use your noggin. So anyway, I came back from Korea at a hunger. I had an excitement about the job that I still do have, to be honest with you. Now this time we'll take. He's done it. And I've talked about it before. I think a lot of YouTubers, you know, they quit their job, you know, at their office or like retail or whatever, and then for like 6 months, they're like, this is the best job ever, and then like, you know, they get mired in the negative parts of the job over time. I think it's a big mistake that leads to a lot of disillusionment on these platforms, but that's not the point of this discussion. The point of this discussion is, if you combine that hunger with the jet lag, I was literally waking up at like I'd go to sleep against my will, more or less, at like 6 p.m., You know what? I'm feeling lucky today. Oh, baby. I would just, you know, the Sandman would take me at like 6:30 p.m. and I would wake up at like 4:30 a.m. and just be like, dude, what else am I gonna do? Might as well get a little bit of work done. And then, honestly, I would work like a... excuse me, that was a tinted rock with 2 troll bombs? Does this not strike you as a little bit ridiculous? A tinted rock that I don't think I've ever seen a tinted rock pay out with like quite literally nothing. Not only nothing of value, but actually just pure destruction. But so be it. We did for Cricket's head. It's well worth it. If that's the price we have to pay, then that's the price we have to pay. But yeah, and then I would work like a long day, you know, because again, you'll never be able to tap into that same kind of like energy. Well, I don't know. I guess there's different kinds of people out there. Some people might be like, you know, instead of having to work a 7-hour day, now I could work like a 2-hour day, and you know, that accomplishes what I need to get done. But that wasn't what I was like. I was like, man, I'm so happy to not be teaching children right now. That it's gonna be a dream come true. Just get to play Dungeons of Dreadmore all day today. That's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. I'll be the first to tell you. In 2012, I was not good with kids. I would not necessarily describe myself now as good with kids, but I definitely think, you know, spending time with you know, my in-laws' kids, my nieces, has made me a little bit more understanding of the demeanor of a child. You know, let me put it this way, you're not... My number one mistake when I taught in Korea was going in there thinking that the way you talk to a child should be the same way you talk to an adult. You know, the problem is, if you talk to adults in a fun manner, that might work. But I talk to adults like I'm Ben Stein, you know? Can you explain to me the machinations and machinations of this contract? That's me right there. Kids are like falling asleep in a heartbeat. You can't... I was gonna say you can't talk to them like they're real people, but that's kind of what I mean. Like, they are real people, but they take a special set of characteristics to talk to them in characterizations. You know, you gotta be a little bit more animated, you gotta be a little bit more simple in your verbiage, which at the time was a struggle for me. But I will say, at the same time, you know, when I taught in Korea, I was like 23. If I was to ask you, and you don't have to answer this question because it's kind of a trap, but if I was to ask you to stereotype and pick like a demographic that's really good at interfacing with, you know, 5 to 12-year-old children, you probably wouldn't pick a 23-year-old guy fresh out of college. And to be honest with you, that makes you Ageist. How about that? I told you it was a trap, and you still chose to walk into it. You just can't help yourself, can you? Sad, really. But you would be right in this case, for sure. And moreover, like, when I taught, I kind of resented the fact that, like I think I'm a good communicator. I will toot my own horn about that. I think I'm a good communicator. By which I mean, like, when I'm dealing... Even with kids, to be honest with you, if I have to explain a concept, I'm really good at making analogies and metaphors and, you know, this is a terrible room for me, but you get the idea. Just want to see what we got here. But I think that the other aspect of teaching I was very resentful of at the time, which is the disciplinary aspect of, like, you know, having to make sure that everybody in the class has behaved well. And so I've got, like, I've always had respect for teachers. Believe it or not. There is that one story where we had a substitute teacher. She was kind of like, you know, jobbing me all day. And then we had the assembly later that was like teacher appreciation. She sent me up to get the flower to give to her, and I dropped it on the ground and walked out to my bus. Look, that's a one-time thing. You know, you're taking a one-time event over, you know, like a 16-year scholastic career. I don't know, like a 20-year scholastic career. And you're extrapolating to make a point there, and I disagree with your point, quite frankly. However, it did happen. But I was in 7th or 8th grade. Either way, what was I saying? Oh yeah, I respect teachers. But the educator aspect of it, I honestly think, you know, is relatively easy. We did go to our item room on this floor, right? We definitely, like, we might as well take this if we're going to take Eye of Belial. But I think we just want to take it and then just keep on moving here. But I don't want to say that that's easy, because, you know, you're dealing with kids with different needs and, you know, different family situations, different, you know, levels of desire to actually learn the material and so on and so forth. But I think that's the much more easy aspect for me, because it feels like a duty, like a job. And then, you know, the much worse part is when you got, you know, kids that are much... I shouldn't say worse, because, you know, the kids are like 5 or 6 years old. What are you going to do? Be like, you're making my job so hard for no reason. You know, they're barely, like, in control of their own actions at that point. They're going to have no memory of this event in all likelihood. You know, that's the level you're dealing with there. But, you know, that's what I was like, hey, Danny, can you stop running around in a circle for no reason? I'm trying to teach you, like, you know... Well, admittedly, I'm trying to teach you basic English, which is not really... Like, to be honest with you, I don't really... I understand you probably pay better attention in normal school. You know, this is English is a second language class that you've been enrolled in against your will. But at the same time, we could all have some fun here if you would just, you know, do as I say. But anyway. Regardless. I had that hunger. So I was recording episodes early on. Like, early in the day. Now, I was burning out by, like, you know, 3 p.m., but you're getting in like a day and a half at the time. But yeah, it's a little earlier today. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Feeling good, honestly. Like I knew I would. Yes. This has been an unbelievable run for us. I've been so engrossed in, you know, trying to rub two brain cells together to create a coherent anecdote that I haven't really kept a good idea of the narrative and scope of this run so far. But it's going extraordinarily well. Like, we have like 5 S-tier items. Maybe even more than 5. I mean, we got the nail, which is like disgustingly great and almost a guaranteed win in and of itself. Rodden Baby, Cricket's Head, like... We got some pretty amazing stuff going on here. Eye of Belial. Eye of Belial's probably A tier, not S tier. But, dude, so I made a tweet yesterday. Well, first off, I made 2 tweets yesterday that I thought could go super viral, which is why I'm upset today. Because none of them did. But the one that went a little bit more viral was very simple. It was like a 1-line tweet. It said, dude, imagine if you were using a Ouija board and it goes spelled out poggers. I just thought to myself that would be funny. I tried to channel some Zoomer humor. it seems to have done okay. It resonated in a certain way. But the other tweet I made was very much more boomer humor, which is a unfortunate sort of like comedy archetype. I think I'm locked in because of the fact that I watched so much like Comedy Central stand-up as a kid, and every joke has like, hey, so you have to pretend that things are real. So could you believe that I was at the grocery store yesterday? And when I was at the grocery store, you know who walked in? Elton John. And you're like, okay, where are we going with this? This didn't really happen. I don't believe you. But like, in the era of my formative years, every single joke, you can't just have like a joke that exists in a vacuum. Every joke has to have like a setup, and then like a punchline, and then maybe like a surprise second punchline, and then you call back to it later on in your set. Not that I would even know, but you learn it from watching, even if you're not doing. So my other joke was more well-formed in my opinion, but it did not take off, and honestly I found some people, in my opinion, got kind of needlessly offended by it, even though it's, a joke only at the expense of the CBS Corporation. So I went down the rabbit hole last night. Been watching a little of Price is Right lately. I know I've mentioned this before. The Price is Right, the last episode I watched, they gave away a Chevrolet Cruze. Now, I looked up the price of a Chevrolet Cruze, and this is what made me mad. It's, in US dollars, it starts at $10,900. That's an insanely cheap car. It's a hatchback. I'm not mad that the car exists. I want to be clear. There's always going to be a market for compact and subcompact vehicles at a budget price. Here's where I'm mad. I don't know if you knew this, because I know that we talked about this very recently, maybe even in the last episode, but after the episode I did my research, and that's when the anger came in. The Price is Right is actually the most watched daytime program in the United States. It gets between 4.5 to 5 million viewers daily. And I think it's daily, at least. I don't know. To be honest, I was reading an article in Variety. I'm not familiar with the trades, the quarterlies and the periodicals, so it's either weekly or daily, but weekly seems too low. You're telling me The Price is Right is getting like less views than your average Among Us compilation? I don't see it. Regardless, how is it possible that it's the most successful? Well, it depends on your definition of success, I suppose. But how is it possible that it's the most viewed daytime television show? It's on 5 days a week, and yet they can get away with giving out the cheapest car imaginable. Again, I feel like there's a lot of people that are like, well, they could just give out no car. I know you're probably like, stop doing this car bit. But at first I was like a little upset, but then when I actually looked up the price of a car, I'm like, you can't, they're not even giving out the car every time. It's really like a chance to win the car. And you can't just give out like a Camaro instead, I know, or a Malibu. Like a Malibu is like 10 grand more expensive. You're getting the car for free in the first place, I'm sure, from either a dealership or the Chevrolet Corporation. You couldn't ask them to like spring for something that literally just like one tier up. I think we want to be here. Trust me. I'm not turning down a free car, even if you're just gonna hawk it afterwards. But doesn't it seem kind of messed up to you that you could go on a game show and win a car that is worth less than the car you drove to the game show? And I don't mean like, oh, I mean, of course you could be a millionaire and drive, your McLaren Senna to the game show. Sure, that's true. But on the other hand, by definition, the Chevy Cruze is less expensive than every other car on the road, at least from the same year. So I understand it's not a completely fair comparison, and nobody's going to turn down a free car. But even then, it's not like a free car, You have to go to the Price is Right taping. So maybe you live in California, but you took your off day to go to the Price is Right. That ain't free. Your time's worth something, allegedly. Stop barking, dude. I'm not gonna use my bombs to get anything here. We're set. Don't embarrass yourself. It just strikes me as honestly a show with, you know, 5 million daily viewers could do a little better than giving away a chance to win a Chevrolet Cruze. And the other thing is, they give out 6 big prizes per show plus the showcases. Okay, fine. They give out 6 big prizes per show plus the showcase, but only 2 of them are cars, you know? So they might give out 2 Chevrolet Cruze tier vehicles per program. Big freaking whoop. I understand Drew Carey's probably getting the bag, and he deserves it, because, you know, you need a charismatic and well-liked host on the show, or nobody's gonna watch it. It's not like people are watching The Price is Right to see, like, oh, the high-octane gameplay of Plinko, right? People are like, you know, Drew Carey's an affable gentleman, and I'm homesick from school. Anyway, we've been talking way too much about The Price is Right. But, dude, it actually, like, I've been thinking way more about game shows, because, again, I've been, you know, cooped up on the couch a little bit more. Especially, you know, when I start working at, like, 8 a.m., finish work a little bit earlier than usual. Leads to the situation where I'm watching, like, primetime TV a little bit more. Did you know they did a reboot of the game show Card Sharks? Which is, like, it's basically Gaspionage from the Jackbox Party Pack. We surveyed 100 left-handed people. What percentage of left-handed people said they believe left-handed people are better than right-handed people? By the way, the answer was 70, which scared the crap out of me. I've realized that I was out of touch with the world. Because in my head, I said, I'm left-handed, by the way. In my head, I said 30. First off, I do not believe that left-handed people are better than right-handed people, and it's just kind of idiotic and insane. Are there a lot of left-handed geniuses? Yeah. Are there a lot of right-handed geniuses? Yeah. I think it's very easy if you're left-handed to get seduced by this idea. You, like, look at a list of famous left-handed people, and you're like, oh my god, Paul McCartney, Albert Einstein. Can you believe it? How is it possible 3 of the 4 Beatles are left-handed? You know how it's possible that 3 of the 4 Beatles are left-handed, even though there's 7 billion people on Earth? Because of variance. You know, there's like a quadrillion bands. If it wasn't the Beatles, it could have been The Who, it could have been the Rolling Stones, it could have been Led Zeppelin, it could have been Jump 5, it could have been Big Time Rush, it could have been I Mother Earth, etc., etc. But anyway, so I said 30. And I didn't say 30 because I thought that myself. I said 30 because I thought, you know, about 30% of the population. And lefties, they can get a little bit up their own butt. I say that as a lefty, myself, they believe for whatever reason that being left-handed is a personality trait. And I've fallen victim to that a few times myself. It's seductive to be like, you know, XD Raffle. I'm so weird. I'm left-handed. You wouldn't understand. It's a lefty thing. I couldn't believe it, though, when it popped up. Like, the lady was like, I think 42 people think that left-handed people are better than right-handed people. And I was like, lady, that's crazy high. And then her opponent said, Joel McHale, the host of the new Card Sharks, I think it's going to be higher. And I said to myself, buddy, you have no faith in humanity. And then when it was 72 or 70, I went, all right, you know what? It turns out I have too much faith in humanity. Really? I mean, admittedly, it's a small sample size, you know? It's only 100 people, but 100 left-handed people, 70% of which said, oh yeah, I think, like, did they say it tongue-in-cheek? I gotta know. Because if they didn't say it tongue-in-cheek, I'm not saying they should go to prison. That's a little much. But I think they should be forced. Like, whenever I get mad at somebody for something like this, I never want them to be punished, like, on a legal sense. All I want them to be forced to do is to engage in conversation with me for half an hour, you know, about the subject. And they may find that after half an hour their opinions have changed, or they may find that they have beaten me in the marketplace of ideas. But that's because all I want to ask is, you know, some simple questions that force them to kind of say the thing that they might be thinking unconsciously. Like, for example, you really think your handedness actually plays not just the role in intelligence, but you think it makes you a better person than a right-handed person? So if I were to ask you, for example, like, what makes you better than a right-handed person, you would say the fact that I throw a baseball with my left hand. That's the kind of thing that crosses your neurological pathways from time to time. So I just want to ask them, like, really patronizing questions like that and see where they stand. Anyway, we're crushing it here. It's a good run. As far as I'm concerned, I grew up watching, like, a staggering amount of game shows. I really like game shows, quite frankly. Give me a moment here. But there's, like, some that I do not like at all. I know that's gonna sound obvious, I suppose, but, like, hold on. Can we pick up this card without getting into trouble? Yes. Beautiful. The king of the game shows is Jeopardy because it rewards an actual skill. Now, I don't think, you know, you don't have to know trivia to be successful in life, but it is something. You know, it's a skill. Wheel of Fortune is like a cup below that because it's basically, I mean, it rewards some degree of verbal intelligence, I think, but it's also a lot of spinning a wheel. There's some RNG associated with it. The only RNG in Jeopardy is really what categories you get, and then, you know, do you hit the daily double? Which is not zero, but it's something. It's not much, I should say. But then, like Card Sharks is... I kind of enjoy, like, the social aspect of the game, trying to figure out where people stand. It's almost a little bit like the Family Feud in that sense. But then I really, to be honest with you, once they get into the heavy RNG of it, that's where I'm kind of out. Like, if you've never seen Card Sharks, the meat and potatoes of the show is basically like getting a card from a deck of cards and then guessing whether the next one's going to be higher or lower. So I don't know, like, sometimes they like celebrate. They'll be like, it's a 3, and they're like, I think the next card's going to be higher, and the next card is like, you know, it's higher like 90% of the time, and they play like this fanfare, and I'm like, you didn't do anything. It's like if I said today was the coldest day in history, do you think tomorrow's gonna be colder or warmer? You'd be like, probably warmer. It's not that impressive. I don't respect it. There's no merit involved. You got no talent. You're flat. Anyway, so that's my thoughts on television. That being said, I would rather see a game show, you know, than most other kinds of daytime TV. I'd always rather watch Price is Right, Let's Make a Deal. You know, at least people are, like, doing something. Rather than, like... There's one sort of TV show, like, I just don't fall into the demographic for it, so I don't understand it. And that's the variety daytime talk show where they talk everything. And I know there's some irony there, because I guess that's kind of what I'm doing. But it's like, it'll usually be like a sort of The View setup, but there's a lot of them in Canada that are like The View, but none of the people involved were independently famous in the first place. And then it'll come on usually at like, but sometime between 11 and 1, either before The Price is Right or after The Price is Right. And it'll be like, first we're going to talk about politics, and then the must-have, like, autumn fashion accents, and they'll have some like fashion blogger come in and be like, sashes are in this year, and then they'll be like, coming up next, a butternut squash quesadilla. You wouldn't think that the flavors would work, but they do. And I'm like, make up your mind. What is this? Politics, news, fashion? They'll be interviewing, like, you know, professional athletes and stuff, but not about sports, about, like, you know, what they do in their homes. And I'm like, what the heck am I even supposed to glean from this? It's like eating styrofoam. Like, it'll fill up your belly, but it has no nutritional value. You ever hear the phrase, jack of all trades, master of none? I blame Ellen, quite frankly. She's down right now. This is where we start to blame Ellen. Get your licks in. Anyway, those are my overly robust thoughts on television. You know what I've been watching, though, because it comes on at 6 a.m., is Parking Wars, a show where you follow Philadelphia Parking Authority agents around while they give tickets to cars. I gotta be honest, you know, I've gotten a ticket before. It annoyed me because I was, you know, I'm not gonna deny that I didn't deserve the ticket, but we were taking Kate's dad out to a restaurant for his birthday. We paid for like 2 hours of parking, and like at 2 hours and 3 minutes, I walked back to the car and I had a $60 ticket for overstaying my welcome. And what's, you know, even more annoying is like when it's the city that gives you the ticket, you're like, at least this goes to like funding city services. This was like a private parking lot, so it was just like, oops, thanks for helping us pay our rent this month. That hurt. But I paid it. I did, you know, I made the mistake in the first place. I'm not going to deny that. Should have paid for an extra hour, I guess, because you can't pay for parking by the minute. But, yeah, I think there's a certain inclination to see parking agents as, like, you know, to dehumanize them in a way. Where you're like, oh, they're like the enemy. They're like a roving band of, like, neuromancers combing the loam for, you know, any expired parking meter. And, you know, they're just trying to make your day miserable. And then, you know, the more I watch it and you see, like, the parking agents just giving out tickets, you're like, you know what? They actually make a really good case. As a driver, I'm happy they exist. Because they're like, hey, we don't want to give out tickets because we end up getting in confrontations all the time. But on the other hand, like, you know, the city wants us to be out here because, you know, if people overstay their welcome in the parking lot and kind of abuse the rules, then, you know, other people who need to go here won't be able to park here. And I was like, you know what? That's how I feel. I'm like, especially, you know, when you get into some busy parts of Vancouver, I'm like, how is it possible there are no parking spots on the street? Doesn't make any sense to me. Like, there are spots, but the spots are 100% filled at 100% of the time. It's like the rental market. There's like 0.02% accuracy. Or occupancy. Vacancy. That's the word. So if you're listening to this maybe while you're doing your rounds as the parking authority, you know, if you see a silver Lamborghini Gallardo parked next to an orange vinyl wrapped Hatsune Miku Lamborghini Urus, I ask you to please not give us a ticket. Times are tough right now. Everybody else, though, write them up. How am I supposed to double park at Whole Foods if you're taking up the spots? Look, I'm not going to deny. Look, illegal is a strong word. Do I always endeavor to park legally? Yes. Okay? I genuinely do. I'll walk for, you know, 5 minutes to go from a legal parking spot instead of, like, you know, double parking in front of a store. However, you know, there's times like where you know, pre-baby, we'd like go out for dinner and there's no parking at the restaurant, but there is parking at the grocery store across the street. Yeah, I'm not afraid to admit that, you know, maybe we'll park at the grocery store and then, you know, go to the restaurant. Especially, like, I know that maybe this makes it seem like too easy, but if the grocery store is closed and it's like, you know, no parking, violators will be towed. Nah. I'm gonna risk it. You're really gonna tow me from your grocery store parking lot when the store's not even open? I don't think you got the sack. Quite frankly, I don't think you got the sack. I will never forget, and I'm not gonna name the business, but, honestly, this soured me on them for life. Kate was practicing driving for her full driving test, and it was a completely empty parking lot. We were just doing, like, pull in, back in, pull in, back in. And a security guard, I can't stress enough, there were no cars in the parking lot. It was like 8 p.m. Security guard came over to us and didn't go like, hey, I see what you're doing, but you're gonna have to do it elsewhere. He was like, if you don't stop practicing parking here, I'm gonna have to call the police. And I was like, all right, buddy. Like, I get this probably isn't the way you thought you'd be spending your Thursday night either, but, you know, you catch more flies with honey than with vinegar. Anyway, again, the company shall remain nameless, but, because I'm not going to say it, but it rhymes with. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the episode, click the like button, helps out a great deal. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. See ya!